Most people say they've seen Niagara Falls, but where we're going today, you don't just see the falls. You feel the air just before the water crashes down, the vibration shaking through the rock walls, and the mist that reaches your mouth the moment you breathe in. This is Journey Behind the Falls, a place shaped by more than 400 years of global fascination with Niagara, one of the loudest, rawest, most primal places you can stand. And somehow, for more than 200 years, people have kept wanting to get closer. Why? Today, we begin in the summer mist, pass through the story of a woman who risked her life in a barrel, and end in the silence and ice of winter. The entrance to Journey Behind the Falls is inside Table Rock Welcome Center on the Canadian side. From there, an elevator takes you about 125 feet, roughly 38 meters, down into the rock. That's where the tunnel begins, a passage carved through bedrock, shaped by more than 130 years of history. At the end of it, you'll find two viewing portals facing the back of the falls, and an outdoor observation deck that opens seasonally. A lot of first-time visitors imagine that behind the falls means some hidden cave with a perfect secret view. But what you actually meet here is not scenery first. It's force. In summer, an enormous volume of water crashes over the Canadian Horseshoe Falls every second. And Journey Behind the Falls is all about experiencing that movement up close. The speed, the pressure, the sound, the spray. The water can move at astonishing force, and standing here, you stop understanding Niagara as a pretty postcard. You understand it as power. That's what makes this place special in summer. The view is less beautiful than aggressive. The air is less refreshing than soaked, and the memory you leave with feels less pretty than unforgettable. But why did people want to go behind the falls in the first place? Today, you ride down safely in an elevator. But in the early 19th century, getting close to the base of Niagara was practically an expedition. People climbed down steep cliffs. They scrambled over giant boulders. Some even used crude, ladder-like structures made from fallen trees just to make their way lower. And at that time, Niagara was not only a romantic natural wonder, it was also a rough and competitive business frontier. Before the War of 1812, there was almost no tourism infrastructure here. Some local entrepreneurs saw opportunity in the chaos. They built structures that blocked people's view of the falls, then charged them money to use makeshift stairways leading down the slope. In other words, even in one of the most awe-inspiring landscapes on Earth, human beings quickly found a way to turn access into business. In 1818, the first enclosed staircase was built in this area. Then in 1832, a spiral staircase allowed visitors to descend toward what was once called the sheet of falling water. That's really where the story of today's Journey Behind the Falls begins. But the history is rougher than most people expect. For decades, this area was shaped by the rivalry between two businessmen, Thomas Barnett and Al Davis. They both, and at times, the competition became so bitter that it reportedly turned dangerous. Stones were thrown at people using the stairs, and rival staircases were even set on fire. During that period, the stairways burned down 3 separate times. That alone tells you something important. The early tourism industry at Niagara wasn't polished. It was chaotic, competitive, and at times almost wild. And the stage for all of this was Table Rock. Today, it's clean, organized, and easy to navigate. But Table Rock itself went through collapses, accidents, and constant rebuilding. Major collapses in 1818 and 1850 remind us that this was never a gentle viewing platform. It was an unstable edge, and people kept coming anyway. Once you know that history, the landscape changes. The railings, the walkways, the concrete, the order we see today, all of it feels like the result of decades of risk, rivalry, repair, and reinvention. Eventually, people began looking for a deeper and safer way to experience the falls. That's what led to the first tunnel. In May 1889, the first tunnel, about 150 feet or 45 meters long, was completed. For its time, it was an innovation, but by today's standards, it was primitive. The tunnel was completely dark. Guides had to lead visitors through it by lantern light. Imagine that for a moment. Not a brightly lit modern attraction, but a wet, narrow passage through rock where people walked in darkness until suddenly the roar of the falls exploded in front of them. Then, in 1902, an elevator was installed at Table Rock House. In 1925, a larger and more impressive version of Table Rock House began to take shape. As the Horseshoe Falls continued to erode the rock and slowly retreat, the tunnels had to be extended more than once. Finally, in 1944, a new concrete tunnel was built about 18 meters behind the original one. In many ways, that's the backbone of the experience visitors still walk through today. But if you follow Niagara's history long enough, you eventually arrive at stories that feel less like tourism and more like obsession. On October 24, 1901, a 63-year-old schoolteacher named Annie Edson Taylor climbed into a barrel and went over Niagara Falls. She is widely remembered as the first person known to have survived the stunt. And the reason people still remember Annie is not just because it was dangerous. It's because she wasn't a young daredevil chasing fame in the modern sense. She wasn't a polished action hero. She was an older woman looking for a way out, looking for some kind of breakthrough in life. That makes the story stranger, and somehow more human. Whenever I walk Journey Behind the Falls, I think of Annie Taylor, because this place asks the same question her story does. Why aren't we satisfied with admiring nature from a safe distance? Why do we feel the need to get as close as possible to the loudest, wettest, most dangerous edge before we say, now I've really seen it? Maybe the answer is simple. When human beings want to understand something enormous, we choose proximity over explanation. And travel works the same way. The trips we remember most are often not the days when we saw the prettiest thing. They're the days that unsettled us a little, the days that made us feel small, the days we never forgot. Of course, today's Journey Behind the Falls is nothing like Annie Taylor's Niagara. Now, visitors descend by safe elevator, walk through reinforced tunnels, and experience the falls from designated portals and observation decks. In 1951, a lower outdoor observation platform was added, giving visitors a wider view of Horseshoe Falls and the gorge below. And in 1994, the attraction officially took on the name we know today, Journey Behind the Falls. But even though it's safer now, the essence of the place hasn't become any softer. In summer, once you step onto the deck, the mist feels almost like weather. Even with a poncho on, the air is so saturated you feel wrapped in water. Some days, sunlight catches the spray and creates a rainbow. Other days, the volume of water and sound is so intense, it almost erases the view itself. That's why this experience stays with people. Not because it gives the cleanest view of Niagara, but because it's one of the hardest places to forget. As a travel writer, that's what fascinates me most here. This is not a perfect postcard spot. It's not about polished photos. It's about instinctive reactions, disrupted breathing, wet skin, and the feeling of standing near something much larger than yourself. And then winter comes, and this same place becomes something entirely different. If summer at Journey Behind the Falls feels like impact, winter feels almost like an illusion. As the season deepens, the mist freezes layer by layer onto railings, rocks, and observation platforms. Icicles grow longer, ice thickens, and in some winters, huge glacier-like formations rise below the falls. You can't talk about winter at Niagara without talking about the ice bridge. This usually forms in the heart of winter, especially around January. When temperatures stay below freezing for long stretches and strong southwest winds arrive after a brief thaw, ice from the Niagara River breaks apart, tumbles over the falls, and piles up below into a massive frozen formation. Over time, that ice can build into something enormous, in some years, as high as a 10-story building. What's remarkable is that from the 1880s onward, the ice bridge became a popular winter gathering place. People walked on it. Small huts were built on the ice. Snacks and drinks were sold there. Just imagine that. A place that now feels far too dangerous to approach was once, in winter, a kind of frozen social space. But that scene did not last forever. In 1912, during an unusually mild winter, the ice suddenly broke apart. 3 people were killed, and that tragedy brought an end to the era of allowing the public onto the ice bridge. There's one more winter story that almost sounds impossible. In 1848, ice formed upstream and blocked the flow of the river so dramatically that Niagara's water was reduced so much it seemed, for a time, as if the falls had stopped. The constant thunder went quiet. And in that strange silence, people reportedly walked out toward parts of the riverbed usually hidden by rushing water. In summer, Niagara roars. In winter, Niagara freezes. And in rare moments, it can seem to fall silent. But through all of those versions, one thing remains true. Human beings have always stood before this place with the same mix of awe, desire, and curiosity. We want to get closer. We want to understand it. We want to feel it for ourselves. Journey Behind the Falls holds all of that history in one place. From the stairways of 1818 to the spiral descent of 1832, to the dark tunnel of 1889, the elevator of 1902, the concrete tunnel of 1944, the lower observation platform of 1951, and the millions of visitors who come today. This is a place that compresses more than 200 years of human fascination with getting closer to Niagara. Come in summer, and you'll understand why people say they don't just see this place, they experience it. Come in winter, and between the ice-covered railings and frozen mist, you'll meet one of nature's strangest and most beautiful contradictions. Something that looks still, but never truly stops moving. And on your way back, you may find yourself thinking the same question people have been asking here for generations. Why do we want to get so close to something so much bigger than ourselves? My answer is this: because when we stand before something vast, something louder, older, stronger than we are, we understand our own place more clearly. Niagara teaches that lesson in the loudest way in summer and in the coldest way in winter. This is Journey Behind the Falls. And if you want to travel Niagara in a way that feels deeper, richer, and more unforgettable, not just as a place you visit once, but as a place that stays with you, subscribe to Niagara the Deep. Because some places only reveal themselves when you go deeper.